everyone. I'm so excited to share with you this week a couple of ideas that I've gotten from using a new tool that I found out about. And so this is called All Morphed Up from the LaserClassroom. You can see it here. And it's being given away for free to everybody who attends our STEAM Summit, our upcoming free STEAM Summit. So as you know, the STEAM Summit is coming up February 22nd through 24th. It is absolutely free to attend if you so choose that weekend. And everybody who attends gets one of these all morphed up components from LaserClassroom, which I think is really fantastic. And I want to show you some ideas that I had today around how to use that because I think it can transfer to visual art, to music, and math as well. I think there's so many different ways that we could use this, and even with some media arts, which is often kind of left out of this conversation of arts integration and STEAM. So I'm excited to share that. In the components of this All Morphed Up, you get a couple of things, and I'm going to show you them in just a second. But one of the things you start out with is a square grid. And you start with the square grid to kind of map your ideas and then transfer from the square grid to the morphed grid. And then when you use the morphed grid, you then use this awesome mirrored cylinder and place it on here, and it actually pops it up as a 3D figure, which is fantastic. It's such a cool little thing to be able to do with students. And then from there, the possibilities are endless once you have it in 3D. Now, there's a lot of artists who have used gridded artwork. So Mondrian is very famous for this. When you look at his images, his artwork, you definitely see the gridded component, and a lot of teachers default to that. Chuck Close also uses gridded artwork. And so when you're using this, you could definitely use those artists as models, as well as many others who use gridded artwork, and then transfer that as onto the square grid if you're just kind of doing an artist study. But I'd like to encourage you to maybe look at that as a way to get students thinking, but then have them take a couple of next steps. I'm going to show you that today. So when you fill in this square grid, you could look at gridded coordinates. So if, especially in the elementary grades, if you're looking at coordinates and how to do line plots and how to have those components on a grid, this is great practice for that. For the older grades, for secondary folks, I'm going to show you how to differentiate this in just a second. And if you're working with early childhood students, I'm going to show you how to differentiate this as well. So starting with that square grid, let's take a look as I've colored this. I've given this grid specific patterns based on colors, and you can identify them quickly. A1, D1, or C1 rather, A3 to 4. And so it goes right here on this square grid. Then you come over to the morphed grid. So what is in this packet that makes this so unique is this little mirror. Okay, it actually comes flat, and you just, for the edge, you just find the edge and you wet a portion of the edge, kind of like this. It'll come apart so that you can use it again and again. But once you wet it and seal it, it will hold together. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, wet this, and then you're going to see what happens once I put it on the screen. Okay, so I wet the edge and I sealed it. And then I can put it on here, and what it will do is it will make this become a 3D figure for students. So I can easily take this and transfer it over to the morphed grid. So all I'd have to do is say A1, that's this one here, and I can color that in based on the outline that I created on my square grid. And similarly, I can come over here and fill in this one. And I'm not necessarily going to take a ton of time here, but just so that you can start to see how this comes together. Okay. So this helps students to transfer their grid. Sometimes that can be a problem, especially for early learners, or for elementary school kids. So we start with that, and then this is going to be able to then come to life, and there's so much you can do with this with multimedia. I mean, you could bring this into multimedia and have it digitally take a picture of what comes up on here, and then digitally format it so that becomes a really cool component of this. you could take this as is and use software that will enable you to take this to a whole nother level. LaserClassroom has a ton of that kind of those ideas that you can leverage. Okay, now once you have that colored in, then all you'd have to do is pop that on there and you can see it come out as a 3D component. All right, so that's cool in and of itself, right? All right, now I'm gonna take it to another level for you secondary teachers out there. And this is where it starts to get really cool because I can connect it with music as well. So I found a couple of resources and I'm gonna create a downloadable resource for this video that you can download that has all of these in it and the links. So that way you don't have to worry about writing anything down. But I found this really cool resource for symphony music and for the well-tempered clavier. And what symphony music did is it created a video where it created the outline of Bach's music from the well-tempered clavier and visualized what it sounds like. So as they played it, so as you played each of the notes, it would come up as a color on kind of a gridded background, but more like using neon lights and putting it as an installation on a piece of on a wall. But you can easily transfer this into that square grid and then do something similar where you make it pop up into 3D based on what you do on the morphed grid, okay? That's really cool. I would do that with middle school students because listening for the patterns in Bach's work, and you don't have to use just the well-tempered clavier. Symphony music actually shows you a couple of different ones from Bach. So there's the toccata and fugue in D minor, and a couple of others that they've chosen as well, some of the Brandenburg concertos. And in order to listen for those patterns and then identify them, and then decide what colors you want to use and specify that on the grid and then transfer that over to here, I really would wait to do that until 6th to 8th grade. But you could definitely connect with the standards from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in gridding and plotting and looking at coordinates on a plane. That would be really interesting math work here for connecting that piece of music with this grid. Now, another one, now if you want to go up to high school, I found this resource. This one comes from Kelly Schroer. I think that's how you say her name. Again, I'm going to put the link into today's resource. But what she has done is actually visualized different periods of time tonality. So she's taken a look at the circle of fifths that musicians know, and she gave each of them a note color. And then you'll see the pitches and how they relate to the basic chord tone. So this is Baroque music, classical, romantic, Impressionism, modern, and surrealism. So you'll see all of these, how she's gridded that. There's a website that she walks you through all of that. What would be great for high school is to then take that same idea and maybe plot their phone number or plot a different kind of series of numbers onto that square grid and then transfer it over here onto this morphed grid and see what the tonality of their phone number could be. And connect that back again. You could use color theory. You could take a look at how different artists have used color to identify specific patterns and then add that into that morphed grid as another layer of engagement. Okay, so I think that's really cool. Now, if you are an early childhood educator, somebody who's dealing with the really littles, like pre-K up to maybe 1st or 2nd grade perhaps, in this kit from LaserClassroom, they also have these coloring sheets that are already done on the grid. So for those students, I would work solely on the technique of looking at colors and which colors go together. So the primary colors and secondary colors, and using them to color in this component, and then placing this on top and being able to see the 3D component come up. That's a really engaging piece. That's more arts enhancement than arts integration or STEAM, but it's a great way in. And I like to provide that option. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. I hope that this was exciting for you. If you want to get one of these for free and give it a try and see how you would maybe use it in your classroom, definitely sign up for the STEAM Summit. It's free. If you want to have PD hours and you want to keep all the sessions, you can tack that on as an all-access pass for $49. but that's not mandatory. To just watch all the sessions and to get this wonderful piece from LaserClassroom, all you gotta do is sign up for free. So I'll include the link to that as well. I hope to see you there, as do all of our certification enrollees. They're very excited to present for you. They've been working really hard on this during their program, and I'd love to show them as much support as possible. We already have over 4,000 people coming, and I'd love for you to be a part of it too. It's all online. You can watch it over the course of a weekend, do a binge watch, and get a lot of different ideas for your classroom. So I hope you keep that in mind. And I hope these ideas are really helpful for you this week. That's it for me. Talk to you soon.